Welcome to Sweet Tea Channeling. I'm Debbie Pokornik, and as always, with me is my wonderful friend and our gifted channeler, Susan Hoskins. Today's episode is a sweet tea treat, where we take a nugget from a previous channeling and play with it in the stream of consciousness to see what new pictures might arise. We like to think of it as an incredible kaleidoscope of bouncing balls, changing shape and color as we go. As we do this, we are raising our vibration, remembering parts of ourselves that we might have lost touch with, and perhaps most importantly, helping to create a reality right here, right now, that is filled with kindness, compassion, abundance, and delight. A place we refer to as Hoomadhi. We have already opened sacred space for all of us and just want to remind you to take a moment to center and ground yourself, and then call in your own spirit guides to assist you in pulling out whatever is most relevant to you in the moment. All right, today's nugget is from the channeling posted January 20th, 2024. You don't have to travel to this new place called Hoomadhi. You just raise your frequency up to dwell with other souls who have done the inner work and have the inner knowing to be able to open up and experience this new light, this new beginning, this new awareness.
Ooh, that's a lot. I love it. I think that each of us is guided in our own unique way for us to do the inner work and to be ready then when the moment calls to go, I really wish not just to touch this kind of consciousness where it feels good and you're living in joy, but I really want to live in it. And so, yes, I think many people take whatever path they're guided to take to get to that point where what we're creating and what others are creating along the same way just feels so right.
Mm. Yes. And it makes me think of how we're both very strong women. And we have had those moments where, one of us says something that kind of maybe offends the other or is taken wrong and creates this little bit of a wall. And what's really interesting to me is how, because we are kind of Hoomadhi pioneers,
Mhm.
we seem to recognize immediately, okay, how do we not just fix this, but fix it in a way that makes us even stronger? And I really, really love how we've been able to do that so
I
far.
do too. I do too. And I think what's beautiful, what I find beautiful is we really implement what we talk about through our posters and through our channeling. We don't just say it and then not practice it. It's like, I find that when you and I do run up against that bump, it's like, okay, no need for one of us to be right or wrong. What are we each trying to say? What's the chord of light? I mean, we practice it.
Hmm.
And even though it feels so uncomfortable at the time, oh my gosh, it just is resolved easily. It's just a whole new way of being for me. I mean, you said it right, girlfriend. We're strong, we're independent, we have a voice. And I know I've used my voice very loudly in the past to, make my point and fight for what's right. And now I don't do that. I don't need to do that because the way of connecting heart to heart just works so much better.
It really does.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. And I also think, like, if you liken life to reading a book or watching a movie, when you know that person's story and you can recognize why they're behaving the
Mhm.
way they're behaving, you might not condone the way they're behaving, but you are at least able to understand it. It
Mhm.
changes how you want other people to react to that person, right? And so I keep thinking, in Humadi, you and I are already so connected
Right.
that it's like I can feel where you might be coming from.
Mhm.
And I right away know that the way I am reacting to it does not match that.
Mhm.
You
I love
know, and I feel like because we're being asked all the time in these videos, but just through our channelings, we've been asked again and again to really put ourselves in Hoomadhi and know that we're there and feel that we're there. And that is one of the things that is different, is that empathy on a new level,
Mhm.
like really wanting to know what's going on for that other person. And by that, I do not mean drilling them with questions
Right.
and doing that whole third degree thing. I just mean really feeling what they might be feeling.
I love that because the one thing that I'm remembering is that all of us are constantly growing. We're constantly learning more and more about ourselves, and at the same time seeking better ways to live and be. So you and I, what I love is that we understand what triggers one another, and it has to do with inner child stuff, old wounds sometimes that still surface for us to go, oh, let's look at this again. Okay, I recognize that. How can I do this better?
Mhm.
How can I feel that empathy? How can I feel that connection? And something that's very important is that recognizing that the other person's intent is good. We're
Yes.
all doing the best we can. Our intent is good, even if sometimes wounds surface that we need to look at. The intent is good. The intent is the
Mhm.
highest. And I find when we bump up against somebody, it is so easy to go back to the old way of, well, I need to be right because I know you're wrong.
Mhm.
And yet in Hoomadhi, what we're discovering is there is no right or wrong. There's how can we come into oneness? How can we come into empathy? How can we understand one another? Because
Yes.
we're both here just trying to do the best we can.
Yes. You know, in your book, The Way of the One, you talk about that blade and shield and
Mhm.
what's the other thing?
Goggles of perspective.
Goggles
Yeah.
of perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of comes up for me there is we're really well trained to put up our shield, and get
Sword
okay.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the goggles of perspective I love too because we are given our goggles of perspective at birth by the culture we're born into, the religions we're born into, what our family believes is right and wrong. So the goggles of perspective are very narrowly focused
Mhm.
in what we're given to believe that make us right and you wrong. And that is so prevalent. And what we've discovered, I think, is how brilliant it is to be able to put all that down,
Yeah.
put all that down, because it is the chords that join us that are far more important.
Hmm. Far more important than being right. And that is something
Exactly.
our culture has really taught us that, oh, you need to be right.
I love what you said at the beginning of this treat. It is like reading a book where you really get into a character and see what motivates them, what drives them, what their goggles of perspective are. And when you do that, then you do develop a compassion, a real compassion for where they're coming from, even if their actions appear not to be what you would want to do.
Yes.
So the more I just practice this right now, the more we
Hmm.
do create the reality with everybody we come in contact, that this does become our new reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a wonderful reality to be in.
It is.
Ready to join us live on these calls? Send us an email at info.hoomadhi, that's HOOMADHI @gmail.com. We'd love to have you play with us.